Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to Nerd Tube. We are talking Book of Boba Fett, the Tribes of Tatooine. I'm here with my partner in crime, cousin Cheeto. How you doing?
What's up, dogs?
I'm good, man. I hope everyone else is good too. So, first of all, Cheeto, because I know you're a bit of an animal lover. So, did you find this episode heartbreaking at all? Like,
Yeah, because they killed banthas every 5 minutes.
yeah, and they killed that sort of rat alien which came out the sand at the beginning.
Well, I mean, there's a difference between killing something to survive and the circle of life
Hmm.
and yada yada. Like there's that, and then there's just like shooting things to shoot things. You know what I mean? I understand them hunting and having to hunt, sand creatures and stuff like that to survive. That I understand and I'm okay with. Um, But when you're just like when they're just this their train's coming through and they just start shooting banthas because they're there, and as I said, it's a fictional creature, so I'm not that broken up about it. But
Fair enough. I was just wondering when they got killed how you'd feel about it. So, this is the second episode of Book of Boba Fett, and I watched this episode twice, and I have to admit, I kind of gave it a hard time in my own personal review when I first watched it. But second time watching it, I did enjoy it a lot more. There's a lot to this episode, and definitely character development. They've really tried to develop Boba Fett by putting him in a scenario where he has to go through an arc. Because one of the things I've always said regarding Boba Fett is that if they were ever going to do a movie about him prior to the Sarlacc pit, then he can't have an arc. He's just a bounty hunter doing bounty hunter things. But surviving the pit, being taken in by the Tusken Raiders, it's gone proper dances with wolves with a touch of Last Samurai and a bit of Avatar to boot. And now he's learning what it means to live with other people, cooperate with other people, work with other people, and he's almost like being reborn into a new character, a character like we were not familiar with, because even when we were kind of familiar with who Boba Fett was, we weren't, because he was a bit of an enigma. But now, post Return of the Jedi, this is where Boba Fett seems to be going. So before we continue, what did you think of this episode yourself personally?
I was very back and forth in this entire episode. I appreciate what they're doing with the Tusken Raider thing and Boba Fett, but good lord, they are leaning into that so hard. I was really vested in the opening parts of this episode. Like the first 15, 20 minutes of this episode was modern day or
Yeah,
those.
yeah, I agree.
And I really liked that. I liked the scene of the twin huts. I liked all that other stuff. I liked the world building on Tatooine that they were doing. And then they just go back in time and it turns into this train heist episode. And I'm like, I'm okay with what they're doing with the Tusken Raiders, but good lord, they're leaning into it far worse than Arrow ever did. Like at least in Arrow, you only spent a little bit of time in the past and more time in the present. But it's like in this one, it's just like, good God, like they're really and they like really want you to be sympathetic to the Tusken Raiders.
I,
I don't
I feel
understand.
I do feel the Tusken Raiders are going to have a massive part to play in the present day. I do feel
I
at
think they're
some
all
point.
gonna. I think they're all gonna die, and that's where the Mandalorian season 2 picks up. I think
I
something's
think
gonna happen, and they're all gonna be killed.
I feel he'll come across Cobb Vanth wearing his armor, which is what makes him want to lead the tribe, and then go on a hunt for that. But I also feel, I mean, this is just obviously my theory, that during the course of this season, at some point, the Tuskens will be his backup army when he needs a bit of backup, to deal with maybe some of the scum and villainy in Mos Espa or Mos Eisley or wherever the fuck he is in Tatooine. I'm liking so far that we're still on Tatooine. We haven't left yet. And it's also, I know you haven't seen Dune, but this was a very, very Dune-like this episode as well. There was so many elements that you could see George Lucas fucking plagiarized from, when he was making his Star Wars movie.
The spice
So
references and stuff
the
like that.
spice, well, the planet of Dune is Tatooine. You know what I mean?
Tattoo
And
movie.
the I forgot the name of the tribe in Dune, but they are the Tusken Raiders. To a degree, Luke was Paul Atreides, but now it's become Boba Fett. Somebody who joins this tribe and becomes this superior guy within the tribe. Water is also, because they're in the desert, is like one of the most valuable materials. Okay, so in this episode we start with the present day, and Boba Fett brings in our our assassin. Let me just bring him in. Oh, wrong one. There we go. So this guy looks like a ninja from Mortal Kombat.
What
Yeah, I
was the
mean,
red one? I don't remember what the red Sub-Zero look-alike was.
is it Aromac?
It might be Aromac. I think you're right.
Yeah. And there he is, not willing to talk. I find it strange that Boba Fett's sort of crime family consists of only 4 people: himself, Fennec, and the 2 Gamoran guards. They're not the most, even though Boba and Fennec and the guards are loyal, then it's not the most intimidating faction, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I was really hoping by this episode he would at least have a crew, like behind him.
I agree. So here he is. They tried to make him talk. He's not willing to talk. He's part of. Do you remember the name of the Red Wind, the Red Sand? I'm really upset that I didn't take down their name.
Red. It wasn't Red. No, it was
It was a new faction, by the way, just so you know.
Yeah, it wasn't Red Dawn. It was Some
No.
people say that it was Red Dawn because they're wearing red and yada yada, but I don't remember. I can go back and look though. But yeah, they were a part of a faction that's not what we've ever seen before.
Yeah. So he is basically bullied into revealing who was the people that were trying to kill Boba, and he ends up giving information away by being thrown into the Rancor pit. Now I'm not. You haven't seen Bad Batch, have you?
No, I have not.
Now there was a Rancor in Bad Batch, taken in by Bib Fortuna, fun enough of all people, and this Rancor was called Muchi. Now it has been confirmed that Muchi wasn't the Rancor that Luke killed in Return of the Jedi, because Bad Batch is obviously set just at the beginning, at the end of the Clone Wars, and before Episode 4. So it is a prequel. So Muchi could have been that Rancor, but it wasn't. But people who have watched Bad Batch was hoping that Muchi would be in that pit, but unfortunately he wasn't, or she wasn't. I can't remember the gender of Muchi. But yes, Muchi is not in there, but I think a lot of people would have known who Muchi is, hence why Muchi wasn't in there. Just so you know, for some information.
Cool.
So, yeah, no problem. So they go and find, I think, that's not the one. But my bad.
I still can't find the name of this group.
Here he is.
It must not be that important.
So they go to see the mayor. Now, this is where I felt Boba should have been a bit more gangster. Because as far as he's concerned right now, this guy who talks at the side of his neck, by the way, created, the voice was done by Robert Rodriguez. He sounds a lot like Pedro Pascal, funny enough, but nevertheless, Boba Fett thinks that this dude is the person that sent out those assassins to kill him. And when he goes up to the hotel, or wherever the fuck this guy is, that's a loud noise. When he goes up to the hotel, or wherever this guy is, he is confronted by some guy at the front desk who's acting like, with a mullet, acting like a dickhead, not giving up his information. And then eventually this mayor's right-hand man takes over and tries to persuade Boba not to interrupt and not to come in. This is where I felt Boba Fett should have just got his fucking blaster out and blow the shit out of them. No bullshit.
Like this is, and I mean, not to cut you off, but this is where I felt like I really am having, because the first episode did a lot of good for kind of making Boba Fett not a relatable character, but like a character that made me be like, okay, I see where he's going. In this episode, they just made him seem like he was weak. I mean, you're right. Like he should have shot the one dude. He should have shot the dude at the front desk. And honestly, he should have shot the mayor, in my opinion. Like, I mean, or at least gotten in a firefight, and then maybe that, and then I mean, and then
I would
the
have shot the
huts.
mayor and recruited his boys.
Yeah, and like and I mean, you're gonna get into the to the confrontation in the streets and everything. It's like, come on, like they seriously sat on the shitter for that one. I wasn't even.
I agree.
So anyway, I
Even
mean,
if
keep going, but it's just like I really felt like this overall. I really felt like this episode did Boba Fett no favors. Not even Venick, right? Is that her name? Venick Shran?
Fennec.
Fennec Shran. Like I don't feel like this episode did her any favors either. I felt like that it was just a bunch of, I don't know. I have issues with this episode just because of the way I was like, I went back and forth with it. There were some cool parts, and then I liked some things, but then at the same time I hated some things.
This is my moment about being gangster. Look, even if Boba was all wrong, his approach shouldn't have gone the way it should have. Even if he was mistaken and he was led down the wrong path by that assassin who said it was the mayor and it wasn't, he should have killed the shit out of the front two guys, killed the shit out of the mayor, recruited his guards, and then realized, oh shit, it's actually the twins. War's about to start, and this is the price you pay for being a crime lord.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
the
and that's
moral
what
of the story. If you're trying to bring one, people get killed.
I agree. As I said, they're kind of just like they're literally sitting on Boba Fett in this. I feel like you're not making this the Star Wars version of the Goodfellas. You're making it like the Star Wars version of like the Kingpin on Hawkeye. Like.
I agree. Now, I don't mind them going down the Western route, which is what they ended up doing in the latter half of this episode. But because that probably works a little bit more for Disney if they're going to go down that route. But unfortunately, gangsters, like they make them real cartoon characters. You know what I mean? I'm gonna kill you, say. Yeah, say. Yeah. That's the sort of shit we're getting here. You know what I mean? And I just don't appreciate that at all. Well, we find out after the assassin gets killed by the mayor's one of his henchmen that it actually wasn't the mayor who sent the assassin overall. It was the wrong information. He goes to that bar where the Twi'leks are, and then he finds out that the twins are coming, and the twins are Hutt twins. I'm not sure if they're ancestral or not because they're a bit close for my liking, and they're male and female.
But I wonder, are they Siamese twins? Like, are they joined somewhere?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so? Okay, I couldn't see it. I was unfortunately at this point I was watching it on my phone because I was getting ready for work and everything, and I tried to look at it and see if they were conjoined twins, but I couldn't tell. Yeah, they are a little bit close.
Unfortunately, I don't have another picture here, but I love the fact that they were carried in because that was brought up in the previous week's episode about, if you're one of the big boys, you're going to get carried in. And you've got these two larger than life species being carried in by these humanoid characters. Oh my God. It was absolutely hilarious. Hello, boss man. How you doing?
I'm all right.
Did you finish the episodes? Have we?
Yeah. Yep. So I'm really ready to go.
Well, we were just talking about our theory where, we think that the Hutt twins are actually going to turn out to be Apocalypse. So, I mean...
That was last year. Let's let it go. Let it go.
Okay.
It's been so long since I've hit that beat. I just had to do it. Sorry. Okay.
All right. Fine. So, the twins are there, and they want to lay claim to Jabba's property because he's their cousin, and that shit belongs to them as far as they're concerned. And you know what? I think they have a point, personally. But I also like the fact that when he walked out to approach them, he told Fennec to watch his back because maybe those Gamorrean guards who worked under the previous Hutt might switch, which is interesting, But nevertheless, we didn't get to see, in my opinion, the coolest shit I have seen in a long time in Star Wars, and it's this.
Yes.
What's his name again? Black Cardassian or Cardassian or whatever.
I don't remember what his name was.
Yeah, you might have to Google it.
A Wookiee with black and white hair.
All I know is that Chewbacca, I'm sorry, mate, you're no longer the badass Wookiee. In a handful of seconds, this guy was on screen. He was awesome. Yeah, I just love the way he walked in. Yeah, the look on his face, his posture, everything about him. I love the fact that we have a bad guy Wookiee. I love it. I love it so much. This guy looks menacing, and he's going to be a handful for Boba Fett for sure. Because this guy is a gladiator, he's a bounty hunter, he's an assassin, he's everything.
Yeah, I really was like, oh crap. Like I was like, I would see, this is where I think they're really like sitting on Boba Fett, because it's like I wanted to see more of like the twins and what they're doing there, and this freaking gladiator Wookiee. Like I didn't need like the final showdown between them, but like all he did was like walked out, stared him down, walked back, and then the Hutts are like, bloodshed is bad for business. It's like, oh god, like can we do something, please? Like, can we do something, please? Like I am desperate for them to like make Boba Fett cool, but all they're doing is shitting the bed with Boba Fett, and I'm sorry, like he's still no more cooler than he was back in the original trilogy, because they're still doing nothing with him. The coolest thing he's done so far is he walked in, he shot Bo-Katan, right? Bo-Katan, the guy that was on the seat, Jabba's seat.
No, that was a Bib Fortuna.
Oh, Bib Fortuna.
Bo-Katan was the Mandalorian, was that female Mandalorian?
Oh, that's right.
By Katie Sackhoff.
Yeah, I know. I keep forgetting all these people. But Bib Fortuna, and then sitting down on the thing. That's like the coolest thing he's done so far. That's not even on this show. So I'm sorry, like they're really shit.
Well, I was going to say there's something that there's not. I was going to say, wasn't there something like later on in this episode that I thought he did was cool, which was the whole. I mean, are we going by screen by scene, or we're just going?
Kind of like going. We're about to jump into the flashback, but I think this is the last clip I've got of the current day.
Well, and Boss Man, while Zam does that, you know,
so
one of my issues with this episode was that it was way too flashback heavy. Like it was like 20 minutes of modern day and then like 40 minutes of flashback. And I didn't mind the story, but they just put way too much time into the flashback. It should be the opposite. Flashback should not be dominant over. I mean, unless you're going to do an inclusive flashback episode, but that's what this whole series seems to be, is flashbacks, Arrow style.
Well, the thing is that I mean, usually I would agree with you, but I think what they're trying to do is sort of flesh out Boba Fett's character, like, you know, why he is the way he is, that maybe like his time with the Sand People sort of like softened his soul. So I think that's maybe why we're getting this so flashback heavy. I mean, I think in this particular episode, it served a purpose of showing, you know, how he came to be so, you know, different from how we saw him with the end of Jedi, where he's more, you know, kind-hearted, he's more, you know, about peace and love and stuff like that. And I think they needed a flashback heavy episode to convey, you know, why he is the way he is. And I think. But I do agree with you that I do think that we need to have more establishing of things in the present day than in the past.
Yeah, I actually, sorry, boss. I agree with you. By the way, 100% agree with you. I was saying this to Bobby earlier on when we started the stream, that he's kind of a blank slate, Boba Fett. Like prior to, he was just a bounty hunter doing bounty hunting things, and they really couldn't do much with that. So by putting him in a scenario where he has to work with people, adapt to them, learn new things, be vulnerable to a degree, not have his armor or anything like that, you're kind of giving him an arc, and you're kind of changing who he is, and you're making him into something, you know. And I don't mind that too much.
I don't mind it either.
Humanizing to a degree, I'm fine with that.
I don't mind that as well, but then the series needed to pick up right after Return of the Jedi. We don't need a modern day and a flashback. If you wanted to start at the moment he broke out of, out of the the thing and just do that storyline, then go for it. But I feel like we're not getting enough modern day stuff. I really want to see more of this modern day.
I know, I agree. It was a very long episode, by the way.
Here's where here's where I'm going to kind of civilly disagree with you, because the thing is that we need to understand what kind of character development and character arc he's gone through since leaving the Silent Pit. The thing is that he's a different because again the Silent Pit in and of itself didn't change him. You know what he went through with the Sand People has. So we need to figure out what that was. The thing is, for me, I think that the rest of the episode should be like less flashback heavy. That maybe there's a particular thing that brings him back to a particular point where he's with the Sand People, but that's it really.
I first of all, I thought the flashback was actually the better part of the episode, and on top of that, I feel that he will leave the Raiders once he sees Cobb Vanth in his armor. That will give him the motivation to move on and leave the tribe, and that's where. And then I've also said as well, Boss Man, that at some point, because he is a Tusken Raider in himself, he's been taken in by the tribe, that he will call for them for backup at some point, and they'll be like his own personal army, and all that sort of shit.
Yeah,
I think they're all going to die. That's why we haven't seen them at all since. So.
And anyway, but nevertheless, we now get to the flashbacks. So here he is, training with female Tusken Raider Kylo Hen, and because she just reminds me of Kylo Ren for some reason. The Tusken, the very combative female Tusken Raider. So he's obviously training with these cudgel sticks, and he's learning their ways. And then during the course of this, we see a train come along, and this train is carrying all types of lovely stuff. And as they go past the Tusken Raiders, they're shooting them, maybe for fun, maybe for shits and giggles, but they're shooting at them. And then they kill off a bantha, which probably really upset Bobby Black because he hates seeing animals killed, even fictional ones. So he then goes to the Toshi power station, which is what it was, by the way. Yeah, and those two people in the power station, that young woman and that young man, they're actually friends of Luke Skywalker. And they come across some, I don't know the name of the species, but they come across an alien biker gang. Because they were, you saw what they were wearing and their behavior. They were basically Star Wars version of bikers. And Boba goes in there and he kills a few. He beats the shit out of them. I'm not sure if he killed them all, but he definitely killed one guy when he shot at him. But this, once again, is my issue. Like, you could see that Maori snarl in his face when he's fucking them over. But I want to see some fucking heads being cracked open. You know what I mean? I want to see people getting fucked big time. But this is the problem. Once again, as I said earlier, Disney can't do gangster because they have to make it cartoony. And when it comes to violence, this sort of violence, I mean, you can have somebody fall off a train and crash on the ground, and then you can go very quickly and move on. But, yeah.
Simon Bobby, I want to ask you a question. Again, this is not a got you question. This is a general question for both of you. Do you think that an R rating would have elevated the quality of the content a little bit just because we could have seen the things that you're suggesting?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're talking gangsters here. We're talking about the underworld. You can't PG-fy the underworld.
So you see like something like a, I mean, I'm going so something like a Scarface or like a Carlito's Way or something like that, like a classic gangster movie.
I don't really want to necessarily compare it to other.
No, but that's kind of thing. No, that's but that kind of thing.
But yeah, we're talking about the backstabbing. We're talking about maybe interesting dialogue as well. Like more like Sopranos, if anything. But I just feel that you like when you're getting somebody hit you over the head with a cudgel, you want to see maybe the eyeball pop out. You know what I mean? You want to see him stamping on, maybe torturing somebody for some information or stuff like that. Like what they did to that that assassin was an absolute joke.
Yeah, because I have no problem. I have no problem with Boba Fett being like kind to normal people, like people that are just law, but whatever. But like
Yeah,
when he's with other gangsters and assassins that are trying to kill him, like yeah, I want to see him like chop a hand off. I want to see him like, I mean, Star Wars loves their not decapitation, amputation of
yeah.
arms. So it's like, I mean, I really feel like that this would have benefited from a R rating or whatever you want to call the TV version of R. Like you can't. I mean, you don't even need cuss words because it's a Star Wars universe. You can make up a word as a cuss word. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
Dank
But it's
Farrik.
not even.
But what I personally would have liked to have seen, and this is just me, would have been more that like we're seeing that like the forces against him are forcing him to become like a Tony Soprano, like a Michael Corleone, like a gangster from the past that and forcing him to embrace his so he's having to pull from his violent past in order to combat these people. So he's maybe putting more in touch with that bad side that he's trying to forget, if that makes sense.
Well, I just think that when you're fighting for your life, you know
Yeah.
what I mean, then there's no mollycoddling that, and the fact that they're constantly cutting away. I would like to see him maybe get a gun and stick it in someone's mouth and let them blow their brains out. You know, that cudgel he's using. I'd love to see it maybe stick it underneath somebody's chin and rip their face off. Something along those lines, like the real brutality. And when you watch these R-rated gangster films, there's certain elements from the brutality that you very much appreciate, and it's not even just the brutality, but just the seediness, like how horrible this world is. Like we don't see enough of that. Like maybe certain gangster characters being really
Yeah,
shitty just to regular people. Backhanding them. All of these sort of things. Yeah.
yeah, like we don't see enough. We don't see enough like. And again, this is going to sound a bit weird. We don't see enough grittiness. We don't see enough like dirt and grime and
Mm.
like things maybe not things not working properly. Like things would work properly all the bloody time in the flaming.
Tatooine's a very clean desert, man. You know what I mean, compared to others. It's common villainy and stuff like that. I just don't feel, it's all good. Like some of the stuff it gets played for laughs. Like I should feel sorry for those people carrying those two huts. I was laughing at
Yeah,
it. You know what I mean? I was laughing at it.
yeah,
And like the hut was using a bloody mouse as a way of like wiping the moisture off its face and all that. It was bloody hilarious. I don't mind that to a degree. That sense of humor is fine, but then you've got to give us a reality check. You know what? This is just not right, and this is kind of shocking. But we're never going to get that because it's Star Wars. If you ever read some of the Sith novels, my goodness, it's deep. It's deep. You know what I mean? The Sith novels are, Disney can never go there. You know, I, it's just unfortunate because it's Disney. And anyway, let's move on. So he beats the fuck out of those bikers, and then he takes their bikes, and we get a little bit of a montage of him training the Tuscans on how to how to use speed bikes, and it'll come very handy for these Tuscans. Initially, when he brings the speed bikes back, they're trying to dismantle them like Jawas, but he says no, 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 no. We need to use these things, and he basically has an idea of taking over the train. So here he is, like Easy Rider. We saw Boba's. We saw him smile a lot in this episode, by the way. Little things like like riding a panther and stuff like that. And yeah, he came across very jovial, but yes, he did teach them how to ride these speed bikes, and then we get an interesting action scene where they wait for the train to come again on its next pass, and they go after it. Now this is where it becomes Western again, in my opinion. The speed bikes are horses. The train is your stereotypical train. You even got like a train driver in the droid that's running it. And what did you think of that scene on the train, guys? I'll start with you, boss man.
I really liked it because I'm a sucker for a good train heist. I.e., why my name's Train Heist. and this was a really, really good train heist. This, again, like, I mean, and people go say, "Oh, we," and the thing is that anytime you have a train heist, you're always going to get me on your side. So this was a really good one because I love the way that he breaks in through the thing and he starts shooting people with the like shooting them in the head and stuff like that. It's pretty damn fucking good, to be honest with you. Like I also love the fact that the robot like turns out, he says like, "Come on, tell me what you do." He just turns around and jumps out the fucking window and basically kills himself. It's like, dude, you could
Oh,
have
the
helped
robot
him
lived.
survived.
The
But I
robot
mean,
lived. The droid lived.
oh, did it survive? Oh, did
Yeah,
it?
it lived. Yeah. I saw it, but it basically it crawls on all fours.
Yeah,
and runs
its
it.
legs sprout out and then it kind of
like the Sing. You know what I mean? John Carpenter's Sing. It just like sprout out legs and start running away and shit. But yeah, I very much appreciated the action in that. This is where Disney can play it safe to a degree, and if it resembles westerns, it's going to be in the right ballpark. When you try to go down gangster, you're not going to be in the right ballpark, in my opinion. But westerns is a bit easier ballpark because they've been doing westerns before they even started to make that more realistic. With spaghetti westerns and stuff like that, the classic westerns of yesteryear and stuff. So yeah, it was a very good action scene. What did you think of it, Cousin Cheetah?
It was all right. I mean, for what it was good. I didn't mind it. As I said, I didn't mind the premise of this episode. I really felt like there was an imbalance in the direction in which they were going. I don't know. They just spent so much freaking time on the Tusken Raiders, and I'm not that. It's not that I don't care about the Tusken Raiders. I just don't need this much of a deep dive into the Tusken Raiders. If we're this interested in the Tusken Raiders, give them a freaking movie. Star Wars, Tusken Paradise.
No, but I thought it was good.
like it.
I think it was good because we got to see more of their culture. Because the thing is that all we've seen from them so far have been three things. One was in A New Hope, where they sort of Shanghai flaming Luke. The other one was when they killed Anakin's mother in flaming Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, because they're relatable characters at that point.
Exactly. So the thing is their relationship, whereas they're not characters in their own set. So this, we get to know about their culture, know about their sort of like, their language, whatever it is, their mode of education, how kind of like the. See, I don't want to say this because this could probably sound a little bit rubbish, but like this is very much like a Native American sort of thing where we're getting sort of like a nomadic, desert dwelling, seems to be barbaric tribe, but actually once we peel back the layers, the more educated and more progressive than people let think.
Ginger was here earlier, and yeah, I agree. I think Boba Fett is great so far. I don't mind them focusing. Tusken Raiders is part of the Star Wars universe, Bobby. There's no harm in focusing on them.
I don't mind them focusing on the Tusken Raiders and the flashbacks. I just think we're getting like too much. Like it's...
No, but you once again, it's all about It's all about making Boba Fett into a character because he is a blank slate of a character that everyone seems to love. There's not much to him, so they need to make him into something. And considering he's also a gangster now, he's no longer bounty hunting.
Well, make him something in present day is what I want. Make him something not in flashback.
We needed an answer to the Sarlacc pit. We needed to understand that. We got it. And then at the end of episode 1 of season 2 of Mandalorian, he's dressed like a Tusken Raider. How did that happen too? These are other questions that need to be answered.
They could explain that in one episode. Like, okay, fine. But
they've done that.
Yeah, well, I think they could have done it in less time. Or because if this Tusken Raider thing is going to drag throughout the whole season, which is 7 episodes, I think. Like, I'm going to get tired of it. Like,
I think it's a cop out from Disney not to focus on the gangsterism. In my opinion,
I agree.
But I'm going to defend Disney to a certain point. The thing is that because they're a friendly company, there's always so much they can show without turn off the kids who probably will watch it. Now, the thing is, me personally, I think it's a mistake. because they could pitch this show for teenagers and make it more appropriate for teenagers, and therefore they could show more violence, more grit, more. Because again, because the thing is that, and by the way, you don't need to show like horrific, blood speed. Because like for example, Goodfellas doesn't really have that much perceived violence in it, but you just see like bloody corpses all over the shop. So maybe show that.
Well, you see somebody getting stabbed in the back of the head with a screwdriver.
I found
You know,
Well,
and
but, I
stuff
mean
like
but
that.
that's another thing we're talking about here is that Boba Fett, especially in the modern day, is just not. I mean, he's not even acting gangster. Like, I get him not wanting to just like kill like normal people, but like, yeah, like these assassins and stuff. When that assassin didn't answer him, I felt like they kind of copped out with the Sarlacc pit, and honestly, I felt like that assassin gave up way too easily.
The Rancor pit, but yeah.
Or Rancor
Daniel,
pit, yeah.
Daniel Vance said the Tusken are the Fremen. That was the name I was looking for regarding Dune. Feels like they're showing us the desert power Boba has acquired. Yeah, I agree.
But I think he's given him some sort of like acquired wisdom that he hasn't gotten through his years of bounty hunting. By the way, these water guys annoyed the piss out of me. Just
they are the Pike Syndicate. They are from Star Wars universe. I'm not sure exactly where. If it's Clone, if we've seen them in the Clone Wars or anything like that.
I've seen them somewhere.
They look quite amphibian. They look like human catfish. Nevertheless, these are the ones who survived and have been taken prisoner by Boba and the Tuskens after they successfully heisted the train. And Boba tells. And by the way, the black things with the water in it is called black melons. So he gives them a black melon each and tells them to go back to your master and tell your masters that if you want your trains to go through this part of Tatooine, you have to pay the Tuskens a tax.
So he's basically Robin Hood.
Yeah.
To a degree, but you can see like how he was bossing it, by the way. Like he's just joined this gang and he's sitting there like the Don Corleone. And he's the only one who's able to communicate with these guys.
But I mean, this is where I'm going to defend this a little bit because I think this is like how it works, like in a gangster film where the guy starts off at a very low level crime lord.
Yeah, he's been promoted pretty quick.
Yeah, so he's basically like a lieutenant, for these guys. Yeah, I know he's going to move up through the ranks, sort of thing. As I said. This is I'm going to compare it to a film now. No, I'm not comparing it like for like, but I'm just comparing it to a film. It reminds me a lot of Godfather 2. Scenes where De Niro is getting any power and becoming who he should have been. So he starts off as a poor kid in New York, and then he goes up in levels.
His name was actually Vito Ancelotti, and then because he came from the city of Corleone, they called him Corleone. When he moved to America, from what I remember. But nevertheless, yeah, all right, I'll give you that, boss man. I'll give you that. He's obviously coming up in power and stuff, and he gains their respect. He tells these guys to fuck off and make sure you pay a tax every time you want to bring your train through here. They raid the train big time. They got all types of stuff, including spice, which is something. It's a bit of an unknown commodity in the Star Wars universe, But we get before we get to this scene, he gets taken in by the tribe, and he gets given a lizard. And this lizard is some good shit, man. I mean, let me read this from Daniel. I think the dream Boba was quite telling with the water in the tree. Family tree is dead. Poor Boba just wants a family. Well, I never thought he just wanted. I think he kind of realizes that he would like a family after being with a family. I never thought he necessarily wanted one prior to having one, if you know what I mean. I mean, he just probably wanted his dad. He just had daddy issues. He is a clone at the end of the day. He just had daddy issues. Go on, boss man.
I was going to say, like, as I said, I wish we could have more opportunities for Tamil Morrison to show his acting chops because he's a really really good actor. So, but what he's shown so far has been really good for me personally. But I just wish he had a little bit more. It just seems like they
Yeah.
just want him to be a bit one note, which I think is a little bit not really what you've hired the guy for.
I wonder where they get all this fucking material from, by the way. But prior to that, prior to him being robed, he gets given a white, sorry, not a white lizard. He gets given a lizard. He's still wearing his white robes, and the lizard goes into his nose, and then he starts tripping balls big
Dude,
time.
I love his comment. He's like, "Oh, you have a gift for me," and then like the thing jumps up and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I believe I swallowed it." He's like, "It's a what is it?
He called it a bugger. You know what a bugger is?
Yeah."
A
He's like,
bugger is
it's
somebody.
a mangle little bugger or something. I'm like, what?
No, but in English, a bugger in England, a bugger is somebody who like fucks you in the ass. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
really?
Buggery, isn't it, boss man?
Yeah,
So he's just like, oh, right,
yeah.
eyebrow, okay. Don't get me wrong. No,
Because that's reason that booger is a curse word in
yeah.
English. Yeah,
And don't get me wrong, and it's usually a bugger is also it's kind of like anal rape as well. It's like it's not consensual either, buggery. But nevertheless, people do use the word bugger sometimes without forgetting its true context. So I'll give him a pass, you know. But he called it a bugger, and he went up his fucking nose. It kind of fucking molested him to a degree. It inserted itself into his body without his consent, and he starts tripping balls. And then he goes for a walk, and he sees the tree of life as whatever. Family tree. We get some Sarlacc pit scenes. We see him in his old uniform and all of that. What do you think of his hallucinations, guys? Cheeto?
I thought it was trippy, but it was what it was. I didn't care that much for it. Yeah, it was what it was. I don't know.
Train heist?
What?
No, boss man. He calls himself train.
I'm like, what about the train heist? We're past that. My bad.
Did you appreciate his hallucination scene,
yeah,
boss
cool.
man?
Yeah, it's cool.
All right. So he gets back and he comes back with a stick, and then he gives the stick to Kylo Hen, and she takes it away, and then he goes into the tent and they robe him, and you can see this is like a very honorable moment for him. Like, he's been taken in by the tribe. They fully embrace him, and he then comes back out and he gets given a stick and he goes to this place where there's this sort of like carpenter guy there, but instead of creating the stick for him, Boba has to create it himself. And then we finally see him creating his own personalized Tusken cudgel. And yeah, it looks pretty badass. And then we have a tribal dance at the end, which instantly reminded me of the Rogers musical from Hawkeye.
Oh God!
Like, I thought they were going to start singing "I could do this all day," with the fucking cudgel swinging them around and shit. How did he know the dance moves as well? Like,
look, I have no idea. I thought that exact same question.
No, it felt very like they were pulling from Native American tropes, and obviously, because Morrison is a Maori, they're maybe pulling from Maori tropes as well.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that maybe he asked them to bring it in to bring these sort of like more traditional forms of dancing and stuff like done by tribal warriors, because he is from the Maori clan into this series to make it more real.
Yeah, possibility. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. And I mean, but it was just a good rite of passage that Boba Fett is part of something bigger than himself now, and that was the most interesting thing. Like, he really is being developed, and this is how Disney are doing it with him. He's not a loner anymore. He's part of a contingent, and this is the new Boba Fett. I would love to see Boba Fett before he fell in the Sarlacc pit, where he's just doing his Boba Fett shit of getting bounties and all of that, But this is where we are now with him. So that's how the episode ended. So God, she scares the fuck out of me when she lands on my shoulder without me
She scares us
realizing.
because now we just see it's just like a blur across the phone screen.
So, what did you think of this episode overall, boss man?
I kind of like the rise to power aspect, but this is when you're going to see something that very rarely. Well, actually, it happens. It happens rarely, but I actually agree a lot with what Cousin Cheeto was saying. That this was a bit too flashback heavy, and I'd rather have concentrated on the real life stuff. I mean, if let's say, for example, some of these scenes had sort of context to what he's going through, maybe there was like something that was helping him out, maybe the strategy that the strong people taught him by, if people have greater numbers and stuff like that, and how to, swarm people. But it just felt like he was just there to be there. And it's bad when being like, Cheeto actually, I'd probably agree on something, but I think that it's a bit too heavy for me personally. Score wise, I'm going to give it a 7.2.
7.2.
Ew.
That's so boss man, isn't it? I'll go next with my score line. I'll give it I'm very torn between 7 and 8. If I watched my first review, I would have given it a 7. My second review, I've given it an 8, so I'll give it a 7.5. Cousin Cheeto?
Oh, I'll give it a 6. I mean, for me, that's a generous 6.
Are you guys on board? Like, a lot of people are complaining that there's no hook at the end of each episode. Like, the first episode ended with him, being accepted by the tribe, and then the second episode ended him being taken in by the tribe and being part of the tribe.
Would you be like the Mandalorian?
Well, the Mandalorian had a massive hook at the end.
That's what I mean.
The pilot episode had Baby Yoda, and the second, and season 2, episode 1 had Boba Fett appear at the end of the first episode. Those are massive hooks, like, oh god, can't wait to watch next week. But there's nothing like that at the end of these episodes. Now, I will say that the introduction of that Wookiee and the twins are hooks in their own right.
I think that should have been the hook at the end of episode 1, is the twins and the Wookiee and the Black Wookiee.
Yeah, I mean, I would have flipped it around on its head. I would have had maybe Boba Fett in the back to tank, dreaming of all of this shit, and then when Fennec Shan comes back with the assassin, he wakes up, and then we deal with all of that shit, and it ends with obviously the Wookiee and the twins. But he's definitely got his hand full. I mean, regardless of what happens in the flashback, it's gonna piece together everything up till maybe Mandalorian. But how he stays in power and whether whether he ends up being the ultimate crime lord of Tatooine is going to be very interesting. The thing with being a criminal empire, somebody always wants your throne. It's how it always has been. Even when he thinks all his enemies are dead, there will be new enemies to come to take the place. And will we see other bounty hunters? Will we see Bosk in this? Will we see the Crimson Dawn, the Black Sun? Are we going to see any of these guys?
We could do.
It's going to be very interesting.
I mean, what I'd like, and this is just me personally, is to see more of like Tatooine's criminal element come together to try and fight him. So, like, he has to try and like scrape to power. So maybe it'd be good to see him do this. So we going to be that winning. I got no respect, so you got to give me some. Just do those sort of things. I know, just in the Godfather, but
He did say he wanted to rule out of respect and not fear. Fennec wanted to rule out of fear, not respect.
Yeah,
I hope Fennec doesn't turn on.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That we get the Don Corleone's.
She owes him a life debt. Boba saved her life in season 1 of The Mandalorian. So there's a lot to go on here. Whether they where we go. Remember, we still got like 5 episodes left. There's a long way to a degree. next week, episode 3. It could be another flashback heavy episode, but even then, it wouldn't be the end of the earth, in my opinion. I do want to see. I do want to see like some tension in the modern day, though. Some proper tension. And maybe one of the Gamorreans gets killed. Who knows?
I mean, I'd
Something
like to
along
see
those
them have
lines.
more than just 4 people crew. Like, they make them like the NWO. Don't make them like, like when they roll in their limousines into no, not Mos Eisley, Mos Espa. Like, man, make it like the NWO. They all kind of get out of the limousine. There's like 15 of them like walking into the place, and
Yeah, because like being a criminal overlord is a new game for Boba. He knows how to be the bounty hunter. He knows how to be the servant, but to be the master is different to being the apprentice. So to speak. Well, he wasn't never an apprentice. He was a servant instead. But you know what I mean. So it's going to be very interesting to see
So,
how he takes on these reins.
so what does everyone want to see next episode? I can say things I want to see next episode quite quickly. What is it? What is it? Is that, like, as I said, like he gets forced to become more violent and become more confrontational in his, like, so basically, as I said, like, I'm not saying think ideas from the Godfather, but like the sort of thing where I like the Untouchables. Let's use that where somebody sings his like Gamorrean guard, back to him in bacon rolls. I don't know.
Getting whacked over the head by a
Somebody
baseball bat on the dining table.
like and he has to send a message back, and he sends like somebody's arm back or something like that. That sort of thing. Where we see that he can't help but go back to his violent past because of what people push him to.
Bossman, we saw a scene which was in the trailers, and it hasn't been shown yet. And then in the first episode, who me? I'm muted. Can you hear me?
We can't hear you. No, I can't hear you.
you're fine, Zam. I can hear you just fine.
Okay.
It's got to be Boss Man.
Hello,
Bossman, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah, sorry about that.
It's
Okay.
got to be him because I could hear you just fine the whole time.
All right. I just want to say that in the trailers we saw a scene where I'm about to say Bossman Boba Fett is sitting on at a table surrounded by other gangsters, and one of them says, what would you? Well, how would you like it if we killed you or some shit like that? Yeah, and that has yet to play out. So it'll be interesting to see. He's like getting the 5 families around the fucking table. It's gonna be interesting to see how that plays out. So I'm expecting that to happen first. And this maybe Boba Fett tried to create a syndicate to go up against the Hutts because they're obviously a very powerful syndicate. And the Hutts themselves, like they might come across as big fat slugs, but they're very durable. Like you can't just if you shoot a Hutt, the phasers will bounce off their body. Which is why why they're very hard to kill. Which is why when Leia killed the Hutt, Jabba the Hutt, that is, it was through strangulation, and she probably had a bit of force power to do it as well. So yeah. So.
I think that what they were kind of leaning toward, because at the very end of the modern day part, Fennec was like, you're going to have to get permission to kill them, right? So I think we might be going off world, and they're probably going to go visit like either the Hutt, like on what is it, Mal Hutta.
No, but who do you need to get permission from?
Why
would a Hutt give
probably a higher Hutt?
Yeah, but why would a higher Hutt let a human, a clone human that is, to kill maybe somebody who they're related to?
Maybe they won't.
It's like, and I just feel that that's a bit weird. Like, who are these people? I mean, if he wants to be the King Crime Lord, fuck getting permission. But it'll be interesting to see how he takes care of those guys. And I'd like to see the Hutts in some fights and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I'd
love to see like I have to like pay people off, or like have to do favors for people. Or having to like rub the right sort of brushes and see how he navigates that. Because again, like one of the things that Gangster Film does is like rubbing the right fingers with gold and stuff like that.
they rob regular, like they take money off regular people. They
No,
do.
what I mean is that paid the right people and knowing who the right people to pay is.
But one of the ways the gangsters make money is just by going to different businesses and saying you have to pay us money
for protection.
Protection money.
for protection protection money from us, which is something that like these are the sort of simplest ways of making a bit of money, and it'll be interesting to see if we see any of that. They're in Mos Eisley, they're in Mos Espa. Can you do that? It'll be interesting to see. So yeah. Anyways, all right. So this was episode 2.
It did.
Definitely better than the first episode. And tomorrow we have Star Trek Prodigy. You have to be looking forward to that. No.
Have you two not enjoyed that?
I don't mind it too much, but it's a new show, so I'm giving it a chance. And the thing with Star Trek shows, apart from Lower Decks, is that it does take a season or two to get things going, and Prodigy is no different in my opinion. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. And on Friday we have Friday Night Breakdown. We'll be talking about all the latest stuff in wrestling with myself, Jose, possibly Boss Man, and anybody else who wants to join us.
No, I'll be there.
Awesome. We heard there'll be some more futures endeavors as well. So it'll be interesting to see what information Jose can extract from us regarding all of that shit. But also don't forget to check out NerdTube. We have a variety of videos out right now, fan film reactions, other reviews of other things, clickbait reactions. It's all there. And if you look on this in the subscription for this video right now, you'll also see our Patreon. If you want to support us, please do. We are just a motley crew of guys, but we feel we got something here, and we would like you to be part of this family to make us bigger and better. Okay. Anything more to say, fellas, before we sign off?
Nope.
Wonderful.
Nope.
Then I would like to say, don't forget to like, share, subscribe to NerdTube. We are the greatest YouTube channel you never heard of. Take care, everyone, and bye-bye.